Hello and welcome to Skeindeer Knits. My name is Ellie and I am a Norwegian living and knitting in London. And you can find me on Ravelry as the designer Skeindeer Knits, and you can find me on Instagram as Skeindeer. But most important of all is the Ravelry group Skeindeer Knits, which is the best place to take part in knit-alongs, ask questions, take part in the community, get in touch. That it's all happening in the group. I have recently organized a group to be very kind of friendly to people who are old-timers and newbies there, so it's very clear which threads are for which pattern, or questions, things to do with Norwegian knitting, knit-alongs of course. And yes, I am the hostess of multiple knit-alongs as ever. I am hosting the Blåfjell knit-along, which is for my sweater pattern, which is so casually hung here. And yeah, that is the thing we are knitting for quite some time still. It doesn't have a deadline yet. I do tend to put my deadlines sometime later after I've started the knit along, and usually it's in due time for people to finish. So I'm not going to be like, I just decided to finish in May. You know, you will have plenty of time to join if you choose to. And yes, I am also the hostess of the year-long knit-along, where we're going to aim to make 6 pairs of colourwork mittens for the duration of 2018. And lastly, there's the Skeindeer Sock-along, which is the kind of the smaller of the 3 knit-alongs, where we are just making one or several of my sock patterns. You can make some from my Socky Leicester collection that just came out, or you could knit any of my other past sock patterns. There are a number of them now, so yeah. Also, that does not have a deadline either. I will decide later on, and you will have plenty of time to knit, because I just want people to have the opportunity to take part. So welcome to this podcast. Welcome back if you're a returning viewer, and welcome if you're a new viewer. If you're a new viewer, let me just give you the lowdown. This is a knitting podcast. I sit here for about an hour and just talk about knitting, the stuff that I make, the stuff that I design, other thoughts and opinions and feelings I have about knitting, and that's pretty much what it's all about. And to returning viewers, yes, I did not record last week. No particular reason. I just wasn't feeling it. I wasn't having a bad day or anything. I was just kind of, you know what, I think I'm gonna take this week off, because I can do that. And it was probably a good thing I did, because I feel like I've been kind of same-ish these 2 weeks. I've been doing a lot of the same projects, and well, there is one project that we will not be covering in this episode because it is an upcoming design, and it doesn't make sense to already start talking about it now. Let's talk about it in the autumn, when we're going to be wanting some warmer clothing. Oh dear, I've said too much. But one really exciting thing that has happened since my little 1 week break is that my podcast, this little thing, Skeindeer Knits, which has been around for about 1.5 years or so, has reached 10,000 subscribers. Probably more than that by now, but I'm not very good at checking the numbers. But yeah, that is a number that we have hit, and oh my days. Thank you all so much for wanting to subscribe to this funny odd little thing of a podcast, video cast, whatever you want to call it. Wow. So in relation to that, I do want to have a giveaway. I'm gonna have a giveaway from, I think, about 8 really amazing patterns. There's some incredible patterns that people have over the course of just the past month or so said to me that I could give away a copy of, and because of my brain, I have, every time I've been finished recording for a week, I've just been, I didn't mention that thing I was going to give away. And then next time, same thing. Oh god, I had like 3 things to give away this time and I've forgotten, and it's just kind of accumulated. So we're going to do them all in this 10k giveaway. So more on that at the end of the podcast, but I thought I'd give you a heads up before we start talking about knitting. Now, because I've had a week's break, this seems like ages ago, but I was knitting some more on my Alicia Beth cardigan. And for anyone wondering, this is the bag that my mom sewed me of some fabric we found in Norway. But yeah, Alicia Beth is a cardigan pattern by Justina Lokowska, and I really like it. It uses the contiguous construction method, which is a method where you first, raglan style, kind of top down, you build a shoulder cap. So you increase on both sides of your work, but you don't increase for the sleeve portion until you get here. But then you have already increased enough on these sides, so you don't do that anymore. So that becomes kind of straight down, and this builds the sleeve. And I have just finished building the sleeve. And so my little conundrum now is when to divide for the sleeve and body, because the pattern says to do it right now. Now that you're done increasing for the sleeves, separate to sleeves and body, and I don't know if we're ready for that. So let me just try this on. Yeah, this is just like a shawl pin that nearly went up into my nose, just to hold it all together, because I am actually knitting this flat for a change, not in the round. My goodness, because there's so much purling involved anyway, like it doesn't really make a difference if I join it and steek it or just knit it flat. So I'm just going to do that, because I would have to sew this with a sewing machine, given its superwash, and that would lose some of the flexibility of the garment. So I just, or some might say add structure, there's a debate there, but yeah, I decided just to do it flat. So, but I put this in so that it sort of hangs more as it will once it's buttoned up, and this is where we're at here. So shoulder cap should be roughly sitting up here, and it just goes down here, and my sweater kind of comes a little bit lower, but beware, we're going to cast on some stitches underneath here. I feel like this is a bit too shallow, like my armpit is right here. You needed to know that. And yeah, I feel like adding an inch or so might be beneficial here, but I'd be very interested to hear what you have to say about that. If you maybe have knitted this pattern, if you think maybe the difference is in row gauge, that could be a case, or if there's just, yeah, I think I need to knit it a bit longer first. This is what it looks like on the back. Isn't it gorgeous? Look at those colours. I'm knitting this in Travel Knitters BFL sock yarn, which stands for Blueface Leicester, in case you didn't know. And oh, I love this colour so much. It's been languishing in my stash for more than a year, and I'm finally doing the thing. This has been the plan for this yarn all along, and it's happening. I have done some modifications already. Who's surprised? I'm not really going to modify much of this pattern, but I have seen photos of the larger sizes here, and they have very deep bust lines, like they hang down here. I didn't really want that, so I increased a bit more rapidly here, and I will be picking up some button bands. Hopefully it won't be that deep. I'm already feeling that it's quite deep, to be honest. I'd prefer it to be up here. So yeah, that's some thoughts I'm having, but hopefully when, you know, I get to build around the neckband, I can pull it up a bit as well, which again adds the little conundrum of what's going to happen here if I end up pulling it a bit up and gathering it a bit. I don't know. But yeah, just in case you're curious, I have actually given this a soak and dry, so that's why it looks so incredibly neat right now. This is how it will look when the whole thing is knitted and blocked, so it's good to have. It's very representative of the finished garment. And I love it. Look at that shape. Look at that. You just built on the shoulder cap, even with a little slope. And sleeves coming right out here. And the whole thing is done in one piece. I love it. So in case you didn't know, I think it's Susie Myers who came up with the contiguous shape. And if you find her kind of pattern page on Ravelry, it's kind of for a template or a recipe for using this method. You can see a list of other garments that uses it as well. And I think it's brilliant. So there we are, the Alicia Beth cardigan in progress. I'm taking it slow with this one. It's lace all over, it's fingering weight. If I rushed this, I would be miserable, so I'm just enjoying it in short spurts, and I think that's the way to go with this one. Now, while we're on the topic of BFL sock yarn, I believe this is the same base but a different dyer, and that is the Wandering Wool yarn in burgundy that I am knitting the Helen Stewart Curious Handmade Winter Rose socks. And I am on the second sock, and look how we are flying. I've been focusing so much on just getting this done this weekend, but today it is Monday and clearly not quite finished. I was hoping to have a finished object for this episode, but that's not really how this works. It's just gonna be captured during the process, and that's fine. And yeah, I reckon I'll have a finished pair next episode. Not gonna make any promises because, you know, it depends on my muse, but so far I'm still enjoying these socks, although the heel flap is as ever a slog for me, because this is the thing with like short rows, not short rows, short rows, where you're just like working in a small number of stitches back and forth, which you do to work up the heel flap, and I just, it's slower for me than if the row had multiple, like many stitches. That's just how my brain works. I get into flow of it and this interrupts the flow. But having said that, this pattern has really kind of sparked something in my feelings for heel flaps and gussets. I prefer doing the short row heel just because I remember it. It is easier and faster, and the fit is pretty good on me anyway, but I have to say this is a slightly better fit on me, and it does look really nice, and I really enjoy doing it for this particular pattern. So it's written in a very clear way that has saved me from a lot of the usual pitfalls when doing the heel flap. So yeah, would definitely recommend this pattern. And I want to show you the stitch pattern because it's gorgeous. See? Look at that. When this blocks, it will be awesome. So, and yeah, nobody's surprised of this colorway. We've talked about that before. It's beautiful and burgundy or maroon. I've been debating what the difference between maroon and burgundy is, and apparently maroon is purple with a dash of brown and burgundy is purple with a dash of red. So it's very subtle. I don't know what this is. Maybe maroon. Maybe. Oh well, I just call everything burgundy nowadays. It's like, oh, purple, burgundy, oh, pink, burgundy, magenta, burgundy. And in case anyone's wondering, yes, there is a finished sock. So we have these going, and I just smacked my nose with the Chagu cable. Yeah, I really like using Chagu needles for sock knitting. I think they are the best option for magic loop for me. There's still a bit of a snag because I knit so tight, so I always have to like really shove the needle in there. It's more on me than the needles, because I feel like actually the Chagu helps with the seamlessness between the cord and the needles, which really no other needles in my experience have done for me. So I really like that. And I was always so worried about the cable flexibility for magic loop, but as you can see, no problem whatsoever. I actually get this a lot on older videos, and someone's commenting like, oh, I can't believe you don't like Chagus. Guys, if it's an old video, my opinions then may not apply. Check, if you're watching this video far into the future, check the date. Whatever I say right now may not apply. Remember that a video you watch could be very old, and I will not remember the content. I rarely remember the content 1 or 2 weeks after posting the video, and so it renders me unable to reply to you. So it's as if you're just talking to Ellie of the past, which obviously is no more. That sounds very sad. Yeah, it's something I felt like putting out there, because I get a lot of comments on old videos from people who want to watch them back to back, which is really cool. But I have no idea what you're talking about, and there's really no point. I'd close the comment section if it weren't for the fact that that would remove all past comments, and I don't want to do that because I love the past comments I got on videos. It's just yeah, I can't respond to stuff I don't remember anymore, and obviously I have no capacity of watching hour-long videos of myself to figure out. So hopefully you will forgive me there, and just remember that commenting on the last like couple of videos is probably what makes the most sense, and I really appreciate that, because I love getting comments on the videos and just like saying hi. So hi. And so there is another work in progress that I have put a lot of dent in. A lot of dent? That's not English. Anyway, I worked a lot on it this week and last week, and it lives in this Twisted Threads bag, which is adorable. Oh, they gave this to me and I just love it. Look at that. Look at the animals and knitted garments. Just what? So that's amazing, and it completely made my face all dark, but oh, it's just the best. But yeah, you see in the bag now. Let's look at the project inside. I have worked some more on my Threipmere. This is a sweater designed by Isolde Teague. It's a top down yoke, so of course I had to knit it. Nobody's surprised. And I have so fondly dubbed this my IKEA uniform sweater. It's okay, it's fine. But yeah, I finished the yoke. The yoke took me like 2-3 nights. That was quick, and I'm just zooming through it because it's color work and it's fun, and a lot of the rows here are rather short until you get down here, then it's a slog, and then I complained, but it's fine, I did it. And then it's just been stockinette, and it's been stockinette on JC Rennie Super Soft, and that is pretty much the same deal as Holst. It's fine yarn, and you need to work in a lot of rows to get some length. And so whilst I worked mostly on this sweater, I've only gotten thus far. Only, this is the back side, this is the front side. I don't mean only, as this isn't anything. And I'm starting to remember why I enjoyed cropping my garments, because I would nearly be done then. But yeah, no, I am very happy with the progress here. it's sort of gotten faster as I've been knitting it, which I don't understand because I'm not decreasing for the waist here. I'm just knitting it boxy and big and loose and light, and yeah, very exciting. And I also really like the little detail that's going on here that you can't see, which is the entire point, because as you can see, there's some potential for some very long and annoying floats here, which is fine, you could do that. But this pattern has a very neat technique that I would say is double knitting. If I can just spread this apart, you may see there is something yellow going on in here. No, you can't really tell. Good. Because here, what is this? This is it. This is not worked on the front side, but on the back side, it's a purled stitch. It's a knit stitch on the back side, obviously, but on the front, it would be a purled stitch, except you can't see it. And now I'm poking through, you can sort of see that it was hidden back here. And yeah. I'm not going to give away the entire trick that the pattern did, but yeah, it just makes you purl the yellow right in the middle here, and in the end does this knit two together thingy that hides the entire thing. All the rows where you worked that yellow stitch, it's gone just by magic, and it's so clever. And I haven't come across that in other patterns before, but apparently it is a thing that exists. So I'm very interested to hear, do you know any other patterns that do this? Mitten patterns, sock patterns, hat patterns. Yeah, I think it's really neat, and I'd be very curious to see it in other contexts. And yeah, it's nice, and it's so big. Oh, it's going to be so light and big, and that's something that's definitely been on my bucket list for a long time. You will remember that I put the Ease Half sweater in my Make 9. That is a post I had on Instagram kind of back in January or December, so you may need to scroll back. But yeah, I added that sweater to my Ravelry queue. Well, it was already in my Ravelry queue and still is, because that is a big yoke, knit in whole, super soft. I can imagine just how light it would be, but also quite big. This is not as big in terms of being oversized, but still quite, and it's gonna be great. I think it's still usable on a summer night, because both in the UK and in Norway the nights tend to get a bit cooler. Although that's not been the case here lately. Oh my god, that's actually part of the reason I didn't record last week, because I was busy Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and that's usually one of my 3 recording days. And then I thought on Thursday, and my flatmate was coming home from South Africa, and there were people here, and it wasn't really a good time. But in addition to that, I got madly sunburned. Oh my god. So on Tuesday I went to Richmond Park. You totally want to hear about this as I'm talking about knitting. I went to Richmond Park, which is full of deer, and I'm gonna add lots of footage of that at the end of the video. Just remembered. But yeah, I managed to get proper sunburn. So I've been like roasting red all around here. It's kind of fading now, but you may be able to see some. And I was completely red on my nose tip. So yeah, that was also a reason I did not record so much, because you don't want to see this. Like now my nose skin is kind of scaling off. But anyway, it's been hot, and it's been hot during the nights as well. And it's April, and the last month it was freezing. It was below freezing in London, which is quite unusual during the daytime here in the winter. And it was snowing, and it was quite unusual. And now in April we're getting nearly 30 degrees. We had, I think, up to 27 or 29 depending on where you measured. And how is that just a month and a half apart? How were these neighboring months? That it's bananas. So it's felt a bit pointless to having just made the Carbet sweater and now working on this yoke, because summer is apparently going to last from April till October at this rate. Yeah, actually the year I moved to London, it was 30 degrees in October, which, in case you don't know, in the UK that's just ridiculous. You don't get really 30 degrees after August here. So yeah, that was quite unusual. But you didn't come here to hear me talk about the weather. This is just what happens if you have lived in the UK for nearly 7 years, which I have. You start talking about the weather a lot, because they do here. But I did mention the Carbet sweater, so as I'm just like casually holding up Frightmere, let's look at Carbet, because it has been blocked since last time. So I'm not linked to Carbet in the comments, in the description, because it's not really a FO for this episode. It was an FO for last episode, so it will be in my Ravelry projects, although I don't think I have a good photo of this yet, so I might get on to do that today, because yeah, it is blocked and dry. And for anyone knitting the sweater and knitting the body bottom up, and you're done here and you're like, that is awfully short, that can't be, because that's what I was thinking. don't worry, it'll be fine. You're working a very, very, very big yoke, can you call it that? The big piece holding it all together. It's big, it's pretty big, and this thing is so heavy, it nearly weighs 1 kilo. So I don't know when I'm ever gonna wear this. Maybe if I go to the North Pole. Maybe. So yeah, I just thought I'd show you what it looks like when it's proper finished. And yeah, I used Garthenor organic yarns in the chunky weight, that's the number 5, and I used the Jacob yarn in the pewter colorway. It's just the most dense, heavy thing. I did it in a week, in case you didn't know, and yeah, no regrets. But I don't see when I'm ever gonna wear this huge thick beast of a jumper. I will recommend, if anyone wants to knit this sweater and you're scared that the bulk yarn will make it super heavy, you could just look for a bulky chunky yarn that isn't as heavy as Garthenor, and the way you do that is check out how many meters it has per unit of grams. So maybe you want to look per 100 grams, that's pretty comparable. This had 98 meters per 100 gram, and that's not really a lot, so maybe you want to aim for something a bit more generous on the meterage but still classified as chunky or bulky. That will be a way to do it. Also, maybe not make a huge sweater that is way above your measurements, although that is what the pattern says you should do, and I think that is a great idea. Just some ideas. But there we have it, Threadmere with the law of digressions, because this is the Skeindeer Knits podcast, which is commonly known as the digression podcast, about the weather and other knits and stuff and my red nose. And yes, I was totally singing Ellie the red-nosed Skeindeer because I'm that kind of person. And yeah, I have nothing else really to say about this sweater. I'm just gonna knit the body for the written length that it says in the pattern. If I like that length, we'll see as I try it on, and then no sleeves, then it's all stuck in there. The fun is over with this thing, but that's fine, and I will wear it whenever it's cold enough, and I'm fairly fortunate that I get pretty cold when I sit down anyway, so not too worried there. But yeah, I'm using the JC Rennie super soft yarn, which is kind of the original super soft yarns of the Highlands, which is probably now sourced from New Zealand actually rather than the Highlands, but still wholeheartedly recommend it. They are very nice meal, like every time I've had correspondence with them they've been very helpful, and they were at Edinburgh Yarn Festival, and they're probably going to be there every year because I've seen them every year, and they're like yeah, kind of an important jewel in the Scottish yarn scene, so definitely recommend. So this is a bit unusual. I've pretty much wrapped up all my knitting chatter, but I have been doing something else than knitting, and that is sewing. Yesterday actually, me and some friends of mine decided to get together for a crafting day, and it was so much fun. We just had a lot of food. My friend who invited us, she'd made so much, and we all brought stuff, so we had this massive cheese board, and she'd baked all the things, and we were all coming over to do lots of different crafts. So some of them were spinning, some were sewing. Yes, one of them did bring her sewing machine. There was a wool winding going on, there were weaving, and of course everyone were knitting. And I was sewing for a bit there. My friend Rachel, who was inviting, taught me how to sew, and she's probably the 3rd or 4th or 5th person to teach me to sew. Everybody gets credit, even though I should know how to sew at this rate. But it was nice to refresh my memory, and also trying out different machines I find really helps. So I've tried a number now, and I actually have been ready to tackle the machine I've borrowed from my friend Christy for nearly a year. So I completely forgotten the name of the pattern that I used, but I will try to remember to link it below, if not write it on the screen. And it's a free pattern kind of blog post, simple instruction online. I know Kristen of Yarngasm has been using that as well, and also credit to Kristen for teaching me how to sew. She did that just before Rachel did, and then I was like, I'm gonna do this when I get home, and then I didn't, and my memory sort of faded. But I think I can refresh my memory if I revisit the Hugh Loco video tutorial, which you'll probably find by searching Hugh Loco sewing bag tutorial. And yeah, so I will be tackling that as well when I get some zippers. But this pattern that I followed was for a drawstring bag, and so I made this. So I can't really say it's my first proper bag, because I have made a bag in collaboration with Kristen, but she did the vast majority of it because she's a way better sewist than I am. But this one, I am very happy to say I did each and every seam, and it does show, but that's fine because whilst I have a pretty sizable fabric stash, which I might show you actually if we have some time for it, I decided to kind of work bottom up. So I'm working from the fabrics and the combinations I like the least, and I'll be finished those, and I'll make some bags, and I'm going to work myself up as my skill level improves, and I'm going to save the best fabrics for last. So I started out with this kind of, yeah, it's a really cute bird pattern, and I matched it with this brown dotted pattern for the drawstring section, where there will be a drawstring coming through when I have one, but I don't, or I do, but I don't know where. And the inside is also dotted, and it's just more pink. So this entire bag is just pink galore. So you can fold it over and you have like a standing bag if you like. Did not use any interfacing here because all these fabrics are actually quite thick. But when I will be using thinner fabrics, I'll be interfacing because I love interfaced bags so much. So there we are. Nice square bottom here, and look how good I am at aligning these things. Well, it's not perfect, but I'm pretty proud of it, given I'm a complete amateur on this. Yeah, that's pretty good. And I think this fabric is really cool, I have to say. Having a lot of fun with it. So yeah, I made this under careful guidance by my friend Rachel, and all I need is a drawstring. And yeah, don't look too closely at the seams on top here because they are like diagonal and they go a bit up and down, and just, yeah, not my, I was gonna say not my finest work, but my finest work is yet to come because I don't know what I'm doing. So that's my very first 100% me made project bag, and I'm gonna do this a lot. So what I did, first thing I did when I got back home after an awesome day, which I definitely need to do again because fun, knitting, food, I sat down with the sewing machine that I borrowed from my friend Christy and made my own bag, and I changed all the dimensions, just going by some bags I had and measured, and it totally worked out. So I made this again using the same fabric, but here I did I think it's 40 centimeter width and 30, if not 30, yeah, 30 centimeter height, and then I cut out about 12 centimeters for the box bottom. Hindsight tells me I could have cut out way more because I like a flat boxy bottom, and this is what it looks like. And it's still not perfect, but I'm pretty happy with how I am matching up the seams. What I mean is like aligning this one with that, because that shows that I know how to make a boxed bottom, and it looks like I got the hang of that, which is probably the thing that I am the most happy with. Aligning the fabrics, didn't even try. And the inside is really cool because it's knitted. It's like a cable fabric. Do any of these fabrics go together? No, but it's what I had. And one downside with everything that I made in the space of my home, not the one I made at Rachel's, is that I don't have an iron anymore. I used to have an iron when my friend Susan lived here, but when she moved out, of course she took her iron with her, as she would, and I don't have an iron anymore, so I've just ordered one off of Amazon, and that should be here soon. Tomorrow, we hope. So that is a lot of the reasons for this bag's imperfections, to be honest, because I couldn't like kind of press down the seams so that it was easy to sew. So we are looking at some weird things like this misalignment, or yeah, same on both sides. It's not perfect, but that's fine. I wasn't aiming for perfect. I was just gonna see if I could do this completely on my own with no tutorials, no pattern, completely from my brain, and I totally could, and that was really cool. Like, I feel very accomplished now. And one thing that kind of failed in this was just because of the measures of the fabric pieces that I had, I realized I couldn't really have this thing in the front and then just longer lining than the front thing. I couldn't get that to go up here, so I had to fold this black fabric over so it's on both sides, which I actually like because it annoys me a bit when I can see some of the pink kind of come over here, you know. It doesn't annoy me really, but I thought I'd see if I can make the fabric just roll over. which I can once I get the iron, because then I can iron it flat and do some top stitching, hopefully a bit nicer looking than what's on the other bag, but probably not. So yeah, things will definitely improve with the iron, because I'm just not very skilled without it as of yet. But one downside with this little rolled over thing that I hadn't taken into account is how do I fix the frizzy ends here. So I'm gonna have to fold those in and do some hand stitching, because there's no way I can put this in the machine and sew it. So I'll do that, I'll fold it over, stitch it by hand, and then the drawstring can come through in here. And there's the bag for you. Well, not for you or for me. I don't know if I'm going to keep any of these bags, because I have a pretty massive project bag collection, because apparently that's what became a bit of an obsession of mine. Which again kind of points back to the early days of this podcast, where I said I didn't really care for project bags and I was pretty happy with all my tote bags. Which, oh my god, I have so many tote bags. Digression again before I get back to my point. I have a ridiculous amount. I spent all day tidying my room today because I just needed to purge it a little bit. And I have probably 100 tote bags. And I only use project bags, and that was kind of the point I was getting at, is I used to say back then that I didn't really care for them. So again, if you go back to an old episode, you will find a different opinion to what I hold right now, obviously. So now I'm kind of crazy bananas after project bags, and especially drawstring ones. And I will do a very honourable mention of a very particular drawstring bag in just a bit. But yeah, we'll see what happens in the adventures of Sewing Ellie next time. I hope I will have sewn more. I hope, you know, with the arrival of the iron I get to do a bit more of the stuff that I want to accomplish here, because this isn't quite what I was going for, but it's pretty fun anyway. And it's very nice to see that I don't actually need a sewing pattern anymore after having made one bag, which sounds a little bit alarmingly self-confident, but I mean, it kind of worked out. Apart from this stuff, I'll figure out something there, work on that. And I hope I will have a go at the zipper bag soon, but I do prefer drawstrings, and I can imagine this is going to look so cute when it's all like squished together with the string. Yeah, I like that. Okay, you don't want to hear about my amateurish sewing anymore, but let's talk about my amazing not so amateurish fabrics. So without being able to sew, this is my fabric stash. All of this. Because I was totally like, I will sew. But some of it dropped down. Yeah, I've been insisting I'm going to sew for a long time, and I've just been hoarding fabrics without really having the skills. But we're gonna fix that now, aren't we? Alright, so the first bits of fabrics that I bought was in June, when I walked up to a craft shop near Knit with Attitude in Stoke Newington. Don't quite remember the name of it, something with craft. You'll find it if you walk on that street. It's not really that far away from that shop. Forgot to mention that in my London yarn shop video, which thank you so much for the great feedback on that video. That was really unexpected. Just, yeah, people really seem to need that video, and which is going to be great to have now that I can just send people that video every time they ask me about yarn shops in London. So there you go. And yeah, so this is a pile of fabrics that I picked up from there, amongst others. So we have the Burb fabric. Oh, that's all I have left. Look at that. Not sure. It's enough for another bag. Yeah, definitely. Even enough for a string in the bird fabric. A little bit ambitious right now, probably, given I can't seem to hit the same seam twice, but we of course also have that knitting fabric. I definitely have enough fabric to make another bag in this, though I mainly just like it as a lining, because it's just something about the idea of opening the bag and be like, oh, there's knitting inside, even if there is no knitting inside. I don't know why, and I don't think it's like super attractive or anything. It's just, I don't know. It's nice to have the lining. It's better than just the plain lining. It's pretty faint as well, which is why I'm like not seeing it as a main kind of feature pattern fabric for the bag. And here's the black dotted fabric that I used for the last bag. And the brown and the pink dotted fabric. These are all pretty sturdy, thick cottons, as opposed to some of the other fabrics that I have, which are these. Now, one which is white on black and one that is white on black. Black on white, white on black. Yeah, you get the idea. So my next plan is to make a bag that has like maybe this as the lining and this as the front, or the other way around, and then adding some of that black dotted fabrics as an accent on top or something like that. I think that would be pretty cool. But this definitely needs some interfacing, because this fabric is rather thin, and I do have some interfacing under my bed, as you do. And the other fabrics I picked up from that shop are these four, which I think go really well together. It's some crazy looking squirrels, this red fabric and this lovely green. I'm thinking inside, outside, accent on the top, something like that. But I'm saving these a lot for last because I'm a bit more confident about this pattern combination than the ones I've been working from right now. They're a little bit crazy. That's just kind of the point. I wouldn't do those at the end of having figured out sewing, if that makes sense. And then I went on quite a fabric spree on in June when I went, or was it July, when I went back to Norway last summer, and ended up with a lot of fat quarters. So we have this one, this, and this, and that. And there's a lot of ideas for combining here, because you've got this lovely fabric. This, oh, it reminds me of some bed sheets I had growing up, I think. I really like them. And this one, oh my god, I love this so much. It's so cute. And I love that I have so much of it. And I'm gonna make something awesome, and I'm gonna combine it with this starry pattern on the inside and this as an accent on the top, where the drawstrings go in. That'll be fun. And I have also picked up these rolls of fat quarters from Fiber East in the summer. That was in July, I believe. So these all correspond with each other. Get the idea. Kind of saving them a bit for when my skill level is a bit higher, because I'm just not going to go wrong with any of these combinations. They're going to go so well together and makes me very excited. But yeah, that's for later. I also have these Moomin fabrics. I believe I have shown you them quite recently. They are lovely, but the prints are huge. So they will be huge bags. And they will be interfaced because it's quite thin fabric. I get the feeling like maybe this has been taken from like maybe old children's bed sheets or something, because I can imagine that was a thing that was more common back when. And yeah, this is another Moomin print. So a little bit Christmassy, the tree and stuff, as you can see. But all the prints are humongous. As you can see here, it's like you could choose this entire section of fabric and not get a single Moomin on it. Here's one fella that we may recognize. And yeah, I definitely need to up my skill level a bit to understand how I can best work from these fabrics and not sacrifice too much of either bits. It might just be used for both lining and outside, just because there are these like big blobs of nothing here. And my last visit to New York, Mina of Knitting Expat showed me a fabric shop that had some really cool fabrics. So this one is just full of sheep. They're both right side up and upside down, so there isn't really any right side up for this print. And I got this amazing like mustard flower on grey fabric, which is beautiful. And I picked up this deer fabric. Nobody's shocked. Skeindeer's gotta have some deer bags. And picked up this kind of blue night bee pattern. So yeah, sorry I don't know the names of any of these fabrics. It must seem a bit ridiculous if you're really into fabrics and you want to know who actually made them. It's probably a bit like watching a knitting podcast where nobody's going to tell you what the yarns are, they're just showing you the colour. And it's like, but yeah, that's just the level I'm at right now, so best to stay honest and true to that. And so then I went to the Village Haberdashery here in London 2 weeks ago and picked up this lovely print, another woodlands print with animals and deer and what have you. I love this so much, and this one is my favorite. More woodland print. I've got a big chunk of this because that is going to be a marvelous big bag with just this fabric all over. I'm going to try to copy the bag that my mom did for me. I think that is what this needs to be. And also this fabric I thought was really nice. Just, I don't know, it's got a little house on it, and yeah, just gonna make lots of bags. Now, if anyone's wondering if I'm going to sell these, I personally do not feel comfortable selling bags at my skill level right now. I obviously will not have any need for having all these bags. Well, I could cost on more projects, that never stopped me. But I think, I don't know. I don't feel like they're good enough to either give away or sell, but I'm not going to be using, I don't know. It's just a way to make me a better sewist, you know? I don't know. And yeah, so this is a collection of fat quarters with some really cool fabrics. I love this. More woodland prints again. You're watching it upside down. This one as well, got more deer because deer is so cool right now and I love them. And this has got lots of foxes on. And then this one is a bit out of the comfort zone. It's very playful and colourful. There's lots of cool things. There's some plain colours in here and some, yeah, corresponding ones. Very foresty, all of these, and sort of a night and daytime style, I feel. And it's just going to be a pile of awesome bags. Probably mostly drawstrings, but we'll see. Now we're up for acquisitions, and I've been reasonably good, but not perfectly good the past 2 weeks. I have been shopping some yarn, but it's been for my grandmother, so my mom's paying for it. And yeah, I got 10 of these, or 9, 10 or 9 of these Quince & Co lark skeins in, was it the Merlet? Yes, the Malbec colorway, which is, yes, burgundy. And it's not for me, because apparently my love for burgundy is hereditary. Both my mom and my grandmother love burgundy, so I'm gonna be knitting a cardigan for my grandmother. My grandmother's been going in and out of hospital a lot this winter. She's had a lot of health difficulties, and she gets rather chilly as well, being the age she is and all that stuff, so she needs a proper wool cardigan. I'm gonna need to make sure that she does not put this in the washer, which she might, because it's not super wash, but that's just something I have insisted to make her, because if she gets chilly and her current cardigans are not enough, it's because the superwash treated, and that's just not going to make her as warm. So yes, she will be getting this, which is nice and soft and thick and filling and warming, and I think will be exactly what she is on the lookout for. So what I plan to make is either the serif or sans serif cardigan pattern by Elizabeth Dorothy. Now I'm saying maybe because one of the patterns has a ribbed cuff and button bands and neckline and hem, and the other one has garter, and my grandmother has specified that she does not actually want a ribbed this and that. She doesn't want anything that clings to her, and so the garter bit actually seems brilliant. But in the pattern, the garter bit, all the things that use garter are for chickadee, which is a sport weight, and this is a worsted weight. The rest of the cardigan is for the worsted weight, the lark yarn. So I'm not sure if I can do this in the garter still, even though it's not chickadee. We'll figure it out. Maybe I'll do moss stitch. I've been thinking moss stitch might be good. The pattern is basically a canvas type pattern where you fill in the stitch pattern that you would like to add, which is gonna, you know, increase my skill level in designing and such, so I look forward to that. And I have maybe landed on a very simple stitch pattern, which kind of surprised me. I thought I was going to look for something complicated, and I've been going through my Japanese stitch dictionaries and thinking what could I add and make it really impressive looking. But in the end, I might just do a very simple knit 3 together, make 3 stitches into one kind of thing, which kind of looks nice and floral. We'll see. But yeah, very excited to make this. I think it'll be fairly quick given the weight and the gauge of this and the size of my grandmother. She's quite petite, so that would be a nice sort of quick knit that I don't have a particular deadline for, because it was just her birthday in March or early April, so it will just happen whenever it happens. And so I have 2 acquisitions left, one of which is not knitting related, sort of. It is the Lighter Than My Shadow fridge by Katrine. It's so big. It's obviously not a fridge, it's a book. It's just kind of fridge sized, mini fridge sized. It's a tome, but it is big because it is a graphic novel. And I was trying to savor this. I was trying to like read it slowly, you know, breathe for every page and like sit there and enjoy each and every drawing. And I may have zoomed through it a bit faster than planned, but yeah, I did get through it in one sitting because it is so captivating. I don't know how I can best put any words to this book, and I haven't prepared anything. And if you probably, I guess if you want something more cohesive, then check out the other Katie's, a review of this Katie's book. So Katie of Inside Number 23 did a review of this a while ago. So if you just search up on Google Inside Number 23 Lighter Than My Shadow, you will get the video that has that review in it. And it was a very good review. And I was thinking for a long time, I'm gonna get this book, I'm gonna get this book. But this was during a time where I wasn't in the best mental space myself. and this book is not a happy-go-lucky book, but it's uplifting in the end. You know, it doesn't end on a low note, shall we say, if that's not really a saying. And I don't know what to say. It's really, yeah, captivating. There's a reason why I couldn't really help myself from reading it in one sitting when I was supposed to do all the other things, because it goes to some deep and dark places, and I was like pretty certain when I had bought this book that I was like gonna call up Kate in the middle of the night and be like, ah, but you know, I managed. And I don't know what to say. There is a lot in this book that is very relatable, despite mine and Katie's very different experiences. There's like a connection there that I'm probably not going to go into too much, but it did really speak to me, and I hope it will speak to a lot of you out there as well if you choose to read this. I bought this off Katie's Etsy shop, where you can pretty much buy it everywhere, because it's a really popular memoir in the graphic novel world. And I want to say, if you like books like, say, Craig Thompson, he wrote the Blankets autobiography, you would definitely like this. I read the Blankets book many years ago, and while it's, you know, a completely different story and all that, it's sort of, it's filled a little gap, a little hole in my heart that I've had it ever since I read that book. I've not quite been able to find something like it since, and I've gone through lots of other graphic novels that are autobiographical, and it's just not quite done the same for me, and this definitely did, if not more. But yeah, it's a bit of a content note. It does deal with eating disorders and mental health things and abuse, and just things you might want to be aware of before opening this book, in case that is something that has a rather significant meaning to you. But yeah, it's really good. It is really good. There has been no exaggeration on the part of people who before me have said that this is a really good piece of work, so I definitely recommend you reading it. But more than that, and I'm finally glad to have like a context where I can mention this, is that Katie Green, who is probably most known to you as the illustrator of several issues of Pom Pom magazine and works for Blacker Yarn, she has started podcasting. And I was aware of this when the first episode went up, but since I was going up to Edinburgh on the day, I wasn't really able to get around to see it until after, and I really enjoy it. So as a bit of a backstory for my sake, I have a bit of a gripe with podcasts that go too slow. You will notice that this podcast goes rather fast, and if you have issues with that, of course, YouTube allows you to slow things down. There's a thing in the tool thing in the like bottom edge of the video where the play and pause thing is. There's like a little wheel that you can slow it down. So I like things to go a bit fast. That's just me. I tend to watch a lot of podcasts on double speed because I'm that kind of person. But with Katie's podcast, I just sit back and chill and just listen to her soothing voice and the tempo that she takes her podcast in. And I usually don't like slow podcasts. Like I said, I will usually speed them up, and I find that the sort of slowness of some can be a bit forced, and it doesn't seem quite natural to me, and I feel like it's sort of part of us wanting to do this whole slow life thing where it doesn't quite jive with me. But there's something about Katie's style that seems so authentic, and yeah, like just like the book, it really speaks to me, and it's kind of the sort of podcast that I just been looking for, but I didn't know that I was looking for. And it's different, and it's different in a good way. I always feel like if you want to start podcasting, then go right ahead, but always keep in mind originality, which isn't hard because we're all different. And so if you just channel who you are, then that will be an original podcast, and Katie has totally nailed that. So I definitely recommend you check out her podcast. It's called the GreenBean podcast, and it's so far 3 episodes in, and really lovely, where she covers not just her knitting but also her drawing, which is, you know, she's an illustrator, so there's a lot of good stuff there. And it really speaks to me because I used to be really into drawing when I was younger. It just sort of halted when I was 16 because I tried to take my drawing in a direction that I just couldn't. And because I couldn't do what I wanted with my drawings anymore, I just kind of stopped. And then I guess knitting's kind of taken over, so it's all good in the end. I did kind of dabble into photography in the years between drawing and knitting, but now it's primarily knitting and the odd photography I need to put my pattern photos up there. But yeah, that was my recommendation of Katie Green's podcast and book. And now on to my other acquisition, which is another Gushan recommendation for you. It is a project bag where my winter row socks currently reside in, by Loop and Bar. So we got a bit of an escapee on here. Look at that. Look at that. So I'm very happy to share with all of you that Loop and Bar is back on Etsy. Now, Loop and Bar is Kate, who has actually previously sent me bags that I have gushed about before. So you may be seeing this like kind of for the second time where I'm like, she makes the best bags. Like, Kate is by far just my favorite bag maker in the UK. I think so. I can't remember. Yeah, it's pretty much number one. She just has this exquisite taste in combining fabrics and just making really delicate bags, and I really love them despite them being quite soft. They don't occupy much space. I don't think, if there is interfacing, it's not a very thick one, and that's surprisingly lovely. I don't usually gravitate towards that, but with her bags, that's exactly what they need to be. I absolutely love them. And yeah, she's had a long break from Etsy lately, but now she's back, and I think there's still quite a bit in stock there. Oh yes, I might just do another order. Nope, I'm not allowed. I have lots of bags coming up, but I couldn't help myself with this one. It's beautiful, and like I said, there's still stuff there in case you want some. Yeah, she's back, and I just had to make an order. So that is Loop and Bar. I hope you saw that. If not, it will be written below. And I don't really have much else to... Yes, I do have other things to say. Look at this pretty lining. And do you know what? In the bag, in every bag she makes a matching little bag of lavender in the same thing, fabric as the lining thing. I'm towards the end of the podcast. Ooh. It smells very strongly of lavender, so this is some fresh good stuff to keep the nargles and the moths away. So brilliant. That was my latest acquisition, and I have no regrets whatsoever, and I could buy several if I had the funds because it's gorgeous. And this is like my drawstring bag goals. If I could make this, I'm good. I'm happy. Sewing goals achieved. So yeah, that about rounds up my acquisitions for these past 2 weeks, and I'm mainly just focusing on knitting from stash. So I'm being pretty good. Had to buy that Queensland Koyan obviously because there's really not much in my stash that I could use for the both softness and warmness criteria that my grandmother had. So plus I have plans for pretty much all of my god knows how many sweater quantities. That's just my brand of crazy there. So finally, at the end of the whole thing, I have a huge giveaway to do for all of you. Now, before I list each and every pattern that I have for this giveaway, I want to tell you about the rules. The rules are just to say something about podcasts. Like, you could recommend podcasts, you could say which is your favorite, you could say what you like about a podcast, anything, and you will be saying that in the Ravelry group. So I will make a thread in the Ravelry group where each and every pattern for this giveaway is listed, and what I want you to write is just something about knitting podcasts. Like I said, you could recommend me one I've never heard of. You could just say which one is your favorites. It could be one that nobody's heard of or one that everyone's heard of, doesn't matter. Or you could just say the thing that you like in podcasts that many of the podcasts that you watch perhaps have in common. Something like that. It's kind of up to you and what you want to write. But another thing I'd like you to write on the very, very top of your post is either all of them, that phrase, all of them, if you want to be in draw for all of the patterns. But if you want to be in the draw for just some of them, you just write the ones you want to be in the draw for. Now, just to clarify, this will not affect your probability of getting into the pattern. So I don't know how to best explain this, but let's say that pattern A and pattern B, you really want pattern A and kind of pattern B, but you want to increase the chances of pattern A, and so you go, I'm just going to write pattern A. Well, I didn't draw you for pattern A, but I drew you for pattern B, but you didn't write pattern B, so I couldn't choose you, you know? So it doesn't actually affect your chances of winning, no matter how many you write. So you might as well write all of them if you want to be in the draw for all of them. But if there's really only a few that you're interested in, then by all means only write those few. It's up to you. I just want to make it clear that it's not a strategic way at all. It's just to make sure that the pattern goes to someone who wants it. So the patterns that I have in this drawer are all generously donated to me from the designers, and I will be listing them now. The first is the Alpstein hat by Asimina Saranti Designs. So here's a photo of that. That is the first in the drawer. And the second is the Weekend Off shawl by Nordic Stitches, and yes, there will be more by the Nordic Stitches in just a bit. We also have Spring Krokussocks or Krokussokker by my friend Katrine Thorsen. They look like that and I think they are gorgeous. And then there is Something Wicked Knits by Voolenvine herself. So there's that. And then I'm very excited to say that we have the Changes shawl by Mina of the Knitting Expat Designs. There's that, and I think that shawl is amazing. And given how many miniskeins I have accumulated since Edinburgh Yarn Festival, maybe I'll need a wrap. I don't have many wraps. I haven't knitted many wraps. It's a pretty gorgeous one. And we have the Impressionists shawl by Helen Stewart, and yeah, I haven't really put much of a dent in mine since the last time I recorded. It has been a mystery shawl, but the last clue has now come out, so you can actually, if you just search a bit through Ravelry project, see what the final shawl looks like and see if you want to be in the drawer for that pattern. I don't see why you wouldn't, because it's amazing and I have had so much fun with it so far. And then we have the Summer Shorties collection by Lily of Nordic Stitches. Again, she has released a shorty sock collection for the summer, and that's one that you can win. And then we have Sunny Every Day by Handknits, which is in collaboration with of Ireland. That's also very, very exciting. So to everyone who has donated patterns, thank you so much. I know it wasn't for everyone the intention of making it part of my 10k subscriber giveaway, so I'm very glad to be able to include all your patterns in this whole celebration. So thank you so much for your donations. And for those of you who want to take part in this, I'm just going to repeat the rules very briefly. You need to post one post, and just one. I will only allow one post per person in the Ravelry thread for this giveaway. What you need to do is first write which patterns you're interested in, and if you're interested in all of them, simply write all of them. If not, you can just list the ones that you're interested in. And then you write something about knitting podcasts, what you like, which ones you like, something you want to recommend. Just, yeah, I hope that was clear, and yeah, have a go at participating. And I have reached the end of this podcast. I just want to take a very special little moment to thank you all for subscribing and for being part of this little knitting journey that has truly changed my life and has given something very, very, very positive in my life that I would have been quite miserable without at some points in my life, because this is something that's pretty consistently good and something to always kind of, you know, when you're not having the best of days and you sort of beat yourself up, but then I have this like this really amazing thing that you're all a part of as a counter argument to whatever sad Ellie may tell herself. And then I'm just like, well, you have that podcast and look at that stuff and how cool that is and how happy it makes you. And I'm just like, yeah, it's true, I did do that and you guys did do that. So I'm not sure if that makes sense, but thank you so much for sticking with me, and I hope you will be there for the next bunch of episodes and the coming adventures we're gonna have. I have a lot of exciting things coming up, some of which, you know, are getting announced slowly, so stay tuned for that. And yeah, like I said, thank you for coming back, and I will see you next time. Bye.